So let's welcome our CG of Accessions Command, Ben Freakley.
Well, good evening, General P., General Cody, General McDonald, General Wagner, Sergeant Major Turner, distinguished guests, and most importantly, cadets of the Marshall Award recipients. Congratulations to each and every one of you for being here. Those who have stood up when your peers did not and said, send me, commission me, I'll serve in this great army called the United States Army. It's an honor and privilege to be with you tonight. A bit intimidating for a Virginian to be here in Lee Chapel on this historic grounds where General Lee returned after the Civil War and came to Washington College to reconcile the nation, where General Marshall served as a cadet in the Corps of Cadets at Virginia Military Institute, where Stonewall Jackson taught those cadets prior to the Civil War, where for decades great leaders have come off the college campus of Virginia Military Institute to go forward and serve in our country. It's a bit daunting to be here with you and to stand in this hallowed place. And I hope both tonight and tomorrow, as you continue with your seminars and hear from other speakers, that you'll soak this in, this hallowed ground where others before you in other troubled times have come and reflected here, been trained here, and gone forth from here to serve. For those of you who sit there, that's where General Lee sat to come in and reflect all the time, so you're sitting in a particularly significant spot. So soon, you'll be commissioned as lieutenants, and you'll begin a phenomenal and exciting journey, that of being an officer in our Army, a leader. It's going to begin with your oath when you raise your right hand and you swear to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That you're going to take that obligation freely without any mental reservation, and you're going to gap the distance between being a cadet with some responsibilities and being an officer in the United States Army, your Army, with huge responsibilities. For you see, the nation is going to place the trust of our sons and daughters, our treasure as a country, in your hands to prepare and, when called upon, to lead in combat and to win and to bring them home. Your responsibility. And you, each and every one of you, because you've already demonstrated excellence, you'll make a difference. You don't have to worry about it. How will I measure up? How will I do? How will it affect me? You trust your training. You trust your cadre. You trust your parents. You come forward. You'll be great. Now, I'm proud of you as a fellow officer, and I'll tell you, standing here, I envy you. As I said to some of the cadets I had dinner with, I'll swap you right now. I'll be a cadet. You be the lieutenant general. I'll keep the pay. But after 36 years of service, I'm going to retire this summer, gleefully, happily, because I know that you're moving forward to fill our ranks and to lead us through this next period of time in our Army. After 3 combat tours and 40 years in uniform, I'm looking over my shoulder, and what I see is bright, clear, strong leaders, huge talent filling our ranks to fulfill the duty and obligation that we have to the nation, to defend her and to be ready when called. So tonight, just a couple of ideas about what I've thought about experience in and out of combat, what I've learned, as General Cody said, from study, experience, watching other great leaders, one of whom is General Cody, another whom is General P., both mentors to me that I've long admired. So first, what would I say to you as you get ready to take on the mantle of leadership? The first thing I would tell you is you must be a leader of character. In the toughest of times, you've got to be a leader of character. The Army values of leadership, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage cannot just be simple words that stumble out of your mouth. They have to be what guides you, what you hold onto in the toughest of moments, and what are your bedrock foundation that you link into as you lead our soldiers. Coupled to that is the warrior ethos, that I will always place the mission first. Whatever the country gives me legally, morally, I will place that first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. And I will never leave a fallen comrade. A soldier who's not trained to standard will become a fallen comrade. A soldier who is not held to standard in a disciplined unit surrounded by values will be a fallen comrade. You, your generation, you as leaders will not and cannot leave a fallen comrade. Now, our country is in troubled times. We're in a war in Afghanistan that we don't know where it's going to go. We think we're finishing in Iraq, but we're not totally sure. We have no idea where this unrest in the Middle East will leave the world, the Middle East, or America's responsibilities, both national interest and vital interest, on where we might have to engage. And then, of course, in things like Japan, we don't know what other natural disasters will occur where you may be called to go forward and prevent human suffering and the collapse of other countries. Our own nation is fragile economically. And we have seen failures, leadership failures, in business, education, religion, political arenas, and even in the military. We own Abu Ghraib. We did not train people to standard to handle detainees. We recognize that, we fix that, but we own Abu Ghraib. So what will bring us out of this troubled times is not hope or guessing that we might get it right, but it's leadership. So you must be the leaders of character that step up, that America needs today and tomorrow and demands. So first point, lead, and lead with character. A cadet asked me recently, what's the toughest thing about being a young lieutenant? I'd say it's the last characteristic of values, courage. Not physical courage. You will be physically courageous. You will trust your training, and when called upon, you will physically dominate your enemy. It's the moral courage component of courage that must be your watchword as you lead this army of ours forward. Second, your college education is almost complete. And I know some of you are sitting here tonight thinking about exams and maybe orals boards or papers that you have to write or things that you have to complete, and all that's interesting. You'll get it done, but now the real work begins. I've seen too many cadets, now lieutenants, who report to training when I commanded Fort Benning, Georgia, as the commanding general of the infantry center and school from 2003 and 2005, while we were in combat, who came to training, you name it, mortar platoon leader course, infantry officer leader course, OCS, ranger school, you name it. They came there and said, well, sir, I'm kind of taking a break. There are no breaks from here forward. There's just hard work. And there's taking the time when you're in the training to immerse yourself in the training. Because again, America's treasure is going to be in your hands. And when you go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, or when you go to Fort Rucker, or you have your moment in your branch to learn, then immerse yourself. Become the complete professional and learn all that you can, because when you get to combat, there's no more time. If you ever boxed or done karate or wrestled, when you got into the ring, there was no more time. There was just the moment to apply yourself, and that's why your military training and education is imperative, and you've got to get to work and focus on that. Now soon you'll have joined our profession. You got to make every day count. So you've got to know your stuff. You've got to know your branch and how your branch fits into the Combined Arms team. You've got to train and prepare yourself for the days ahead, because combat is tough. There's no more time. You got to prepare now. You've got to think now about what is it to take another human being's life? What is it to lose a life of a soldier you lead? And what is it to place the mission first and accomplish the task? You're joining an army in transition, and we need your leadership and your knowledge as we transition. Some of you will go to combat units right away. Some of you will be in units that are rebuilding. And so you've got to understand where the Army is. You heard General Dempsey today talk about discipline and fitness and trust. And you've got to reset your branch to its highest capability as we reset this Army in transition, because we don't know what's going to come next. So that means you've got to push yourself to become and remain physically fit. 240, 250, 260 at LDAC might have been okay. When you hit your battalions, if you're not at 300, you're behind your soldiers. General Cody once presented the toughest air assault second place to a four-man team, and he asked a young specialist, how many weeks have you been training for this? And the young man said, hey sir, my buddy got sick, they woke me up this morning, and I came out and did it. That's the soldier you're going to join to lead, so you've got to be physically tough. Physically, fitness leads you to mental toughness. Because if you can do it physically, you'll toughen your body and you'll harden your mind as you get ready to go to combat. Second, you've got to immerse yourself in our doctrine and history. And too many people lately have walked away from our doctrine, and we're making it up as we go on the battlefield. And we're giving the advantage to the enemy when they never should have that advantage. The combination of the combined arms team, the Apache, artillery, mortars, infantry in the fight, armor, reconnaissance, military intelligence has to be brought together as a fist that strikes and dominates the enemy and cannot be applied singly, or you will lose and take casualties. And the responsibility will be yours because you didn't understand our doctrine for your platoon, for your branch. You didn't understand engineer, quartermaster, logistics, and combat. You weren't ready. You've got to master the basics of your branch. Push yourself at your basic officer leadership course. Ask questions. Become tactically fit. And then ground yourself in faith. Faith in God, faith in country, faith in family, and probably most important or as important, faith in your fellow soldiers. That the team of teams, soldiers, will be victorious in the day of battle. But you've got to have that grounding in faith and that trust that General Dempsey talks about. The trust internal to your unit and the trust external that America, when they call you, you will be ready. Great leaders like General Marshall were physically fit, tactically fit, and spiritually fit. I'll tell you one story. Lieutenant Darren Riley, infantry, comes to the 10th Mountain Division, trains his platoon, and finds himself in tough ground on the Push River Valley. And every day he's moving east and west with Humvees, trying to prevent the enemy from moving north to south. But every time he stops as an infantryman, he looks around him and sees where the mountains are coming down into flat firing platforms where the enemy can shoot RPGs and machine guns. And every day, day after day after day, he and his forward observer lays in those positions, call in targets, give the targets ahead of time to the Apache pilots that are down in Jalalabad. And one night on 270 degrees, Darren Riley was in the low ground and the enemy was in the high ground. In 5 minutes, he had artillery fire, mortars fires, Apaches inbound, and close air support, which what he was directing. He then started to redirect his machine guns on the ground against the enemy. As he was leaning over talking to a machine gunner, a rocket-propelled grenade hit behind him, and because his small arms protective plate was up, he was wounded in the back. Only man in his platoon that was wounded, and they devastated the enemy that night, losing no one by the use of combined arms fires because he was a master at what he was about as a second lieutenant in Delta Company, 1st Battalion, 32nd Infantry. You must be tactically fit, spiritually fit, physically fit. Third, I know our chief was out here today, General Dempsey, but he's starting a conversation about the profession of arms. And this is a conversation that you will pick up this year and carry forward in future training and in your units. And you've got to consider what it is to be a professional in your Army. What does it mean to be in the profession of arms? What does it mean to be a professional soldier? And after 9 years of war, how are we as leaders and as a profession meeting the aspirations? Are you a leader in the profession all the time? Do you have unique and expert work that no one else possesses? You have to have unique and expert work because the nation depends on you. You have to have that expert capability. You have to fulfill the moral obligations of the profession with our ethos and our values. Ethical, self-correcting, discipline, changed culture that you will help the Army reset into. So what is it to be a profession? And are you a profession all the time? Professional. What I mean by that is, do you have one capability and image that you project in uniform, and do you have another on Facebook or in a blog site or in a Twitter? Is it okay to not talk to your chain of command, but then get in social media and speak disparagingly about your chain of command, which many leaders do, which hurt the profession and the trust of the United States Army? So where do you find yourself tonight ethically when you are in the virtual digital world, and how is that different than sitting here with your esteemed colleagues thinking about becoming officers in our Army? Lastly, I would tell you, go forward on this journey not to be served, but to serve. Never ask your soldiers to do anything that you would not do yourself. Train them. Train them. Train them. Rommel said that sweat saves blood. Take 2nd Lieutenant Christine Richardson of a transportation platoon in the 10th Mountain Division. She took command of her platoon in the summer of 2005, getting ready to deploy in the winter of 2006. And as she looked at the platoon, she said, every soldier will be an expert with their rifle. And her leader said, ma'am, we have to work on preventive maintenance checks and services on the trucks, and we have to get everybody a license to drive the truck, and we have to learn how to load the trucks, and ma'am, we've got to learn how to navigate, and being what we are is okay. And she said, what part of being an expert don't you understand? And they went to the ranges and they trained and they became experts with their weapons. In July of 2006 in Helmand Province, they were ambushed outside of Musa-Calais, Helmand, by a superior enemy force. One of her sergeants, the sergeant that first engaged the enemy from an open Humvee, immediately killed 3 of the enemy. The rest of her platoon expertly engaged the enemy. They had 0 losses. The supply convoy got to Helmand Province. The enemy was defeated because, you see, she didn't go forward to be served, but to serve, and she trained her soldiers to standard. Not coddled, not coddled. Trained to standard to be ready in the fight. You got to listen to and respect your non-commissioned officers. Build the team. But remember, you as the young officer, you make the decisions. And those decisions are made in your name. General Marshall said that you must have a discussion about the decision with the leadership. But once the decision is made, you must be loyal to that decision. And the more contentious the decision is, the more loyal you must be. So it's easy today to criticize, but as you get out there and lead and give input to your chain of command, once the decision's made, you've got to move forward. Make that decision and get your NCOs to stand behind you with that Army value of loyalty. And you've got to earn trust by living our ethos and our values every day, not just when you're in uniform, but from here on out, every day. There was a Major Worth that once issued battalion orders that said, but an officer on duty knows no one, which means that you're living your values and doing your job in and out of uniform every day. And you've got to be loyal to your commanders and your fellow officers and your soldiers. By your example in service, you, ladies and gentlemen, in this great body will make a difference. Now, this is probably the last time you're going to be recognized for individual achievements. Your Marshall Award winners. From now on, as a commissioned officer, you're going to be part of a team. And that team's success or failure will be born on the back of your soldiers and how you lead them. So leaving Virginia Military Institute and the Marshall Seminar and going back to your home university, take stock of your 4 years of leadership lessons and determine how you will forge a team of teams, lead them forward, and instead of you being concerned about recognition, you recognize your soldiers. You'll soon be wearing the rank of second lieutenant. You're going to go beyond theory of our profession. You're going to be stepping up to lead our nation's treasure, responsible for the nation's sons and daughters serving in your platoons. The torch during this period of time is being passed from our generation to yours. General Dempsey and the nation are counting on you to step up and take that torch, lead us through transition, and make a difference for your soldiers by being a leader of character, knowing your stuff, training your soldiers properly, and going forth to serve, not to be served. Now, you're authorized to have fun every day, so get out there and have some fun. But you're about to become something larger than yourself, so make a difference. And I'll sum up tonight with this quotation spoken by Dr. Joseph Warren in 1775 after the Boston Massacre. He said, "Our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. Our enemies are numerous and powerful, but we have many friends, determining to be free, and heaven and earth will help in the resolution. On you depend the fortunes of America." You are to decide the important question on which rests the happiness and liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves. Marshall Award winners, class of 2011, act worthy of yourselves as you lead our soldiers. And may God bless our deployed forces. May God bless you in your journey. And may God bless the United States of America. Army strong. Thank you very much.